In her over 40 years as a psychic medium and spiritual healer, best-selling author Echo Bodine has garnered a tremendous amount of wisdom from both sides of the veil when it comes to death and dying. We hope that you'll enjoy this short interview about her new book, What Happens When We Die.
In What Happens When We Die, you explore topics like the nature of heaven, how to be with dying loved ones, and how we can communicate with the dead. What inspired you to write this book?
What inspired me to write this book is that I have seen so many people full of fear about dying and also a lot of misconceptions about dying. And I've learned it all through my work as a healer and a psychic. And it just seemed like, okay, it's time. It's time now to put down on paper all the really cool things that I've learned about the dying process and about death itself, and then about life after death.
You say that it's important for us to both talk and listen to the dying. What should we talk to them about? Do you have advice for how we can start this kind of conversation?
I think it's really important for us and for the dying to have these very intimate, loving conversations about their life and about the process that they're in of dying. One thing that I realized as my mom was going through her dying process was that she had a need to talk about her life, things that she had never shared with me before. And it was really healing for both of us to talk, really honestly, openly talk about, well, Echo, this is what happened in my life. This is what happened. And I started to understand her better and why she made some of the choices that she did. What was also really cool about it was that she was getting clear on some of the choices that she made, some of the things that she's carried with her, things that she felt bad about, guilty about. She released those things by talking to me. And I saw how healing it was for her in her dying process to really eliminate as much baggage as she could and really come to terms with a lot of things. So what I have found when I've gone to a hospital to work with a client is all I simply say is, tell me about your life. And they're not sure where to start. So I say, well, start at the beginning. Where were you born? Tell me about it. And it's fun to watch them because at first they're kind of shy about it. They feel almost kind of guilty that, well, I'm talking about myself too much. But then as they get into it, oh my gosh, they become so animated and they remember stories they hadn't talked about for a long time. And every time that I've done this with a client, when they're done talking, they're just so grateful that somebody was willing to listen to them. Somebody was interested enough in their life to listen to them. They've always thanked me for that. They've also said, wow, I feel so much better, like they've unloaded some of the things that they've carried. And keep it simple, always is my suggestion as to how to start a conversation. Just simply say, tell me about your life. And then, if it feels appropriate, end the conversation with, and how do you feel about dying? And if they have a lot of fear about it, that's when they talk. They'll talk about, I'm kind of afraid. Some have said to me, I'm kind of afraid once I get to the other side that God's going to be angry with me because of some of the things I did wrong. So we talk about that. Some of them are just afraid that there is no heaven, and so they're just going to end up in this abyss of blackness. So we talk about that. Others talk about how sad they are that they're going to leave their loved ones behind. The one thing I hear the most from people who are in their dying process is that they're afraid to die because they're afraid everyone is going to forget them. That's their biggest fear.
So what you've been talking about really is how important process is in this, and to just be open to how you can initiate that.
Yes. A mortician friend of mine told me that, first of all, we talked about the bonuses of having an open casket versus a closed casket or cremation. And he was saying that having an open casket, he has found, has been the best thing for people in their healing process because they can see the person and they can accept the death. The other thing he said about the process is that what he's seeing these days versus the old days is that everybody wants to hurry up with the funeral and get back to work. And he said he's seeing more and more people coming in saying, okay, no, forget all that, forget all that, forget all that. Let's just get to the service, make it as quick as possible because I've got appointments, I've got places I need to be. We all have to get back to work. And he said that he's actually finding that people are coming back a year later. The people that had the closed caskets and the quick services, they come back to him a year later and say, was my loved one really in the casket? Or could she be alive somewhere and I just don't know it? Do you think we did the funeral okay? Should we have had it longer? Okay, so these people who are doing the quick funerals or doing the closed caskets, their grieving process is actually longer. And so yes, the whole thing is a process from the time we find out that we're dying until our actual death. And then not only the people living here on earth are going through a process of grieving, but the soul who has died, the soul that has moved on, they are also in their grieving process. And that's another reason why I wanted to write this book, is because I wanted the living to know that the dying, the person that has died, is also going through a process on the other side.
So, as a psychic medium, you communicate with the dead. Is this something that anyone can do? And if so, how?
Oh boy, communicating. You know, there are suggestions in the book on how you can communicate with your deceased loved ones. The most important thing I would want to say to people is talk to them out loud, because they can hear that. If we're just sitting around thinking about them, they're not going to get those thoughts. They need to be able to hear that we want to hear from them. But what I would also say is a caution about don't do it too soon after they've died, because they are getting used to a new environment. They are getting used to being away from us. And you don't want to pull on them too much, hardly at all, if possible. If you could just let them be for even 6 weeks after their death, just let them be. And then at some point, you can start talking to them out loud, and they will hear you. And when they have enough energy, they will come and make themselves known to you. There's many different ways they do that, and you can read more about that in the book.
Okay, so you have had family members that have gone through the dying process.
Yes.
And you've counseled many people who also have gone through this process.
Yes.
How do you feel yourself about death? Do you have any fear about it, or why?
I have
or
no
why not?
fear about death. To me, really, it's just the next step. And I will lay down this physical body that has served me well this lifetime, but then my soul will go on to heaven, and it will go on to possibly another life. So I see this all as a great opportunity to develop myself to my highest potential. And then when I'm done, when there's no more that my soul feels she can do, that's when it'll be time for me to go. And that's how I see it, really. Do I have any fear at all? I don't think so. No, I maybe if there's any fear, it would be, I don't want some horrible medical thing I have to go through to get to the to get to the death. But the actual dying itself, no, it's going to be easy.
All right. Well, thank you for your wonderful insights and sharing those with us.
Thank you. Thank you.